Good evening, coders. Tonight we're going to be working on guidelines for the eye, and most of our conversation will be about glaucoma. Now, I'm using the Mayo Clinic website. It's mayoclinic.org. So if you want to go there to read this information for yourself, you can. So we'll start off tonight basically explaining what glaucoma is based on their website. And glaucoma, notice, is a group, right, of eye conditions. It's a group of eye conditions that damage the optic nerve. Your optic nerve is what sends visual information from your eye to your brain, and it is vital for good vision. Damage to the optic nerve is often related to high pressure in your eye, but glaucoma can happen even with normal eye pressure. It goes on to mention that it can happen gradually. It is the leading cause of blindness in people over the age of 60. And it also mentions that it can occur with no warning signs. So it would be a good idea to have your eyes checked on a regular basis. But did you know that there is more than one type of glaucoma? So notice some of the types mentioned along with the symptoms. We have open angle glaucoma. You have acute angle closure glaucoma. How about this one? Normal tension glaucoma. And then they talk about glaucoma in children, pigmentary glaucoma. So I show you this to say if you've only heard of just glaucoma, well, there are different types of glaucoma, and it does affect us in ICD-10 coding. So before we get into the guidelines, I've gone to the tabular section of the book of the ICD-10 manual, and I wanted to show you a little bit about H40 through H42. You can see that is the range here for the glaucoma codes, H40 through H42. And also we have an excludes one note at the very top. So this code set excludes absolute glaucoma, congenital glaucoma, meaning they were born with it, and traumatic glaucoma due to birth injury. So these codes are excluded with H40. So notice the different types again. Here we have glaucoma suspect. We see it as H40.0. We need a 6 character. And note that it is broken down by laterality. You have the right eye here, your left eye, bilateral, and unspecified. Now I'm showing you this so when we go through the notes make sense to you. Notice that we also have open angle with borderline findings, low risk, and then you have open angle again with borderline findings, high risk. Notice the laterality, right, left, bilateral, right, left, bilateral. Now, I'm not going to speak on each one of these, but I want to show you just a few more that may be more popular, like primary angle closure without glaucoma damage. And then you have open angle glaucoma, primary open angle. Now let's talk about this. Open angle glaucoma is the category here, unspecified open angle. And then you can see H4011, primary open angle. You still have to worry about choosing the laterality, but notice that glaucoma also has stages. Stage 0 here would be unspecified. 1 is mild, 2 moderate, 3 severe, 4 indeterminate stage. So your choices would be based on the coding guidelines here. Okay, so I just want to show you this, and I want to ask you to please take a moment, look through the codes in your own manual. For example, H40.3 has a code also note, code the underlying condition. So there are things that you need to highlight to make sure they stand out to you. Also, we have it at H40.4, H40.5. You want to pay attention to the notes. Now here at H42, we have glaucoma in diseases, and we have a code first note, and we also have an excludes one note, all at the beginning of this category. So take a moment to look through H40 through H42, and then meet me at the guidelines when you are done.
Recording in progress.
Okay, so now we are coding, reviewing the coding guidelines. And you can see here that it's Chapter 7 guidelines. Now, Chapter 7 guidelines are H00 through H59. So again, if you're going to review the eye tonight, the guidelines of the eye, why not also review the medical terminology for the eye? So the first guideline says when we are assigning codes, that we should assign as many codes from H40 as needed to identify what? The type of glaucoma, the affected eye, and the glaucoma stage. So when you're coding glaucoma, what do we want to know? The type, which eye, and what stage. Now, this next guideline is for bilateral glaucoma, and this bilateral glaucoma will be of the same type and stage. So meaning in both eyes, same type of glaucoma and same stage. When a patient has bilateral glaucoma and both eyes are documented as being the same type and stage, and there is a code for bilateral glaucoma, report only the code for the type of glaucoma, bilateral, with the 7th character for the stage. Okay? When a patient has bilateral glaucoma and both eyes are documented as being the same type and stage, and the classification does not provide a code for bilateral, and we have some examples, H4010, H4020, report only one code for the type of glaucoma with the appropriate 7th character. All right, so let's make this guideline make a little bit of sense to us, and we will go back to the tabular section. So you want to save your spot in the guidelines, and let's go over to the tabular section. So I'm going to do a new share possibly. Let's see. Nope, give me just a moment. So remember, the guidelines stated if it was bilateral and it was the same type of glaucoma and the same stage of glaucoma, that we should use one code for that. So here is an example here. We have H40.1, that's where I am. And let's say that both eyes are diagnosed as primary open angle glaucoma, bilateral, mild. Well, then we only need to use this one code because it's going to cover both eyes, and it says mild, so we would add our 7th character of 1. Okay, so the guidelines are basically saying if they're the same thing in both eyes, just code it using the bilateral code. Now, the only time that may be different, let's take a look back at those guidelines. See if I can find them for you. Hold on just a moment. It says when the glaucoma is documented and both eyes are the same type and same stage, and the classification does not provide a code for bilateral glaucoma. So now we will look at the example of not having a code for bilateral. So look at H40.10. So you see H40.10, we don't have any laterality. right? We are just told unspecified open angle glaucoma. And in other words, you're going to have to code the different stages for the eyes, okay? Take you back to that when report only one code for the type of glaucoma with the appropriate 7th character for the stage. So you're gonna just code it with the appropriate 7th character because you do not you do not have a code for right or left. So in other words, if both eyes are the same and it's open angle glaucoma, then you're going to code your H40.10. You don't have a 6th character, so that would be the X. And let's say the stage was mild, that would be 1. And that is enough for both eyes. So just so you can have a visual on that, there is no 6th character, X and 1. That's enough because this category doesn't discuss laterality. I'm gonna just code it for both eyes. They're the same. It's okay. All right. So we'll skip back over here to those guidelines. Bilateral glaucoma stage with different types or stages. So remember when you're highlighting, this is the same type and stage. This is different types or stages. So when a patient has bilateral glaucoma and each eye is documented as having a different type or stage, and the classification distinguishes laterality, assign the appropriate code for each eye rather than the code for bilateral glaucoma. So let's go back again. If the patient has different stages in each eye. So let's say your patient's left eye is H40, 1, 2, 2. We need a 7th character for that left eye. And let's say the left eye is mild. So we have 1, 2, 2, 1. But for that right eye, it's different. Let's say the right eye is severe. So that would be H4, 0, 1, 2, 1, 3. Because your left eye was mild, your right eye is severe. Okay, so in this case, they are different stages for each eye, and you have to code it as such. Back to those guidelines. And I'm not sure if you're seeing black spots on the screen. If you are, it's just because I have to flip back and forth. So what about when a patient has bilateral glaucoma and each eye is documented as having a different type, and the classification does not distinguish laterality? Again, those examples we saw in H4010 and H4020. Assign one code for each type of glaucoma with the appropriate character for the 7th stage. So let's flip back to our coding manual. Make sure that we're looking at it, and we're going to use H40.10 again. So remember, H40.10 did not have laterality, so we don't know if it's left or right. But if the left eye is H40, 10, no 6 here, X. Let's say the left eye this time is moderate. So that would be a 2. And then let's say the right eye was 1. It's mild. So again, if each eye is different, then for this category, you're going to code each eye. But if both eyes are the same, then you just need one code. If both eyes are different, you need to code each eye. Hopefully that's clear. Okay. So back to our guidelines. Okay. When a patient has bilateral glaucoma and each eye is documented as having the same type, but different stage in the classification does not distinguish laterality, assign a code for the type of glaucoma for each eye with the 7th character. Okay? And we just saw an example of both. What's the difference in these two paragraphs? Did you see that? Because a lot of times to me, sometimes the rules look the same. If you look at these two sentences, when a patient has bilateral glaucoma and each eye is documented as having a different type, but we don't know the laterality. In this one, when a patient has bilateral glaucoma and each eye is documented as having the same type, but different stage. So if something is different, then you have to code each eye. If it's the same, you just need one code for these H4010 and H4020 categories. So number 4, the title is Patient Admitted with Glaucoma and Stage Evolves During the Admission. If a patient is admitted with glaucoma and the stage progresses during the admission, assign the code for the highest stage documented. I think that is self-explanatory. Number 5, indeterminate stage. Assignment of the 7th character 4 for indeterminate stage should be based on the clinical documentation. The 7th character 4 is used for glaucomas whose stage cannot be clinically determined. This 7th character should not be confused with the 7th character 0, unspecified, which should be assigned when there is no documentation regarding the stage of the glaucoma. So indeterminate comes from the documentation where our physician says, I can't determine it clinically. But the unspecified means he just didn't tell you that information or you just don't have it. So blindness. If blindness or low vision of both eyes is documented, but the visual impairment category is not documented, assign H54.3, unqualified visual loss, both eyes. If blindness or low vision in one eye is documented, but the visual impairment category is not documented, assign a code from H54.6, unqualified visual loss, one eye. If blindness or visual loss is documented without any information about whether one or both eyes are affected, assign H54.7. So blindness and low vision, both eyes documented. You don't have the visual impairment category, that's H54.3. But if the blindness or low vision in one eye is documented, but you don't have that category for that one eye, H54.6. But if the blindness or visual loss is documented without any, you don't know which eye it is, you're going to go with unspecified, H54.7. So again, let's just take a look at the guidelines. What's the difference? This is both eyes. This is one eye. And this is, you don't know which eye, right? So when you break your guidelines down like that, it can help you to understand it a little more. You can go and look at H54.3, 0.6, and 0.7 to make it stand out even more to you. What you're going to do now is you're going to stop the video and you're going to go to Moodle and do your assignment, which will be under this video. All right, thank you so very much for your attention. I hope you have a great weekend, If you have any questions, you know you are welcome to email those to me. And I hope to see you next Friday at Code Crusher. Bye.